So what's going on with Lucid stock? The company is one of many new EV startups looking to ramp up production and benefit and capitalize from the growing consumer demand for electric vehicles. But what's going on inside of the company? Well, I plan on providing key insights in this video on what's going on with Lucid stock by what the CEO recently told investors. Now, the CEO provided some key insights that I don't think you're going to want to miss, so let's get into the details. Starting with production, Lucid, that is, went from making 279 vehicles in 2021 to 7,180 in 2022. So that's a big jump. And they went from delivering 125 vehicles in 2021 to 4,369 in 2022. So a huge jump in terms of production and deliveries from Lucid in 2022. So major progress for the company for the year. Now, he goes on to say that their acknowledgement of our view that our core EV technology is not just the best, but the best by a tangible margin. So Lucid very confident in itself, saying that its EV technology, its core EV technology, is the best by a considerable margin. I know others will argue, namely Tesla will argue against this fact, but there it is, the CEO going out and saying it. The key thing I noted from this statement is also that production is no longer a bottleneck. So for the longest time, many EV companies had supply chain constraints where they weren't able to produce enough to meet consumer demand. Now, this CEO is saying, you know what? Production is no longer a bottleneck. If we have orders, we can fulfill those orders. We don't need to have this back order, backlog, and delays because production is no longer a bottleneck. And their highest performance Lucid Air is scheduled to start production this summer. All right, so that can be exciting for those looking to purchase that highest performance Lucid Air. And I will say, looking at all of the electric vehicles on the road today, Lucid Air is my favorite in terms of the style and look of the car. It soundly beats all of the others that are on the road that I've seen. But that's just taste, right? You might prefer the Rivian or the Tesla or another one. In my opinion, Lucid is the nicest looking EV on the roads today. And the CEO goes on and saying, this is where the importance of our in-house technology leadership is paramount. Not only does it provide advantages in performance, efficiency, charging times, interior space, among many other features, but we also expect it will provide a cost advantage at scale. That's a lot to unpack there. Lucid saying that their car provides advantages in performance, in efficiency, in charging times, all very important things in consumers' eyes when they're looking at an electric vehicle. But they also expect this to provide cost advantage at scale. I don't know. I don't know about the likelihood of this statement coming to fruition if we fast forward, let's say, 3 years or 5 years in the future. I don't know if it will be providing these, what the CEO is saying, because these are some ambitious statements. And I will say, like, it's not Lucid only that's making ambitious statements. Across the board, I'm picking out EV companies as ones that have told investors these and given investors these ambitious and excellent looking stories that are, we're going to be selling this many cars and we're going to have this kind of technology and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and painting this beautiful picture only to later say, oh, you know what, we're sorry, we really tried, but we didn't really achieve those things we told you we were going to achieve. Instead, we think now we'll do that in 3 years' time or 5 years later or whatever it might be. And, I don't know why this is so concentrated in the electric vehicle space. I mean, you look at Tesla, Neo, Rivian, Lucid, others, they give you these projections and guidance, and then they miss those projections, they miss those targets, they end up pushing those targets out. And this has happened several times across the industry. It's not uncommon to see this continue to go on. And so, as an investor, it's reasonable to be skeptical about the forecasts and projections that you get from EV companies, because the percentage of times that they've given you a forecast or a target and the times that they hit the target has not been anywhere near 100%. And no industry is at 100%, obviously, but the EV industry in particular, out of all of the industries that I follow, out of all of the companies that I follow, the EV industry has been the one that's the farthest away from 100% in terms of projections and actual results. I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now. So in the fourth quarter, they signed an agreement with Select for battery cells, and they expect this agreement, along with our existing agreements with LG and Samsung, to give us sufficient cell supply for our air and gravity programs comfortably through 2025. That's really good news. Supply chain and supply constraints have been one of the big issues with rolling out electric vehicle production. So they currently have more than 28,000 reservations, and in fact, that's more than they plan to make in 2023. So they have more reservations than they're going to make in 2023. So they expect to still have a backlog by the end of the year, unless these reservations end up canceling. Unless these reservations end up canceling, which is not uncommon. Many folks had signed up and reserved an electric vehicle, and then they end up canceling because the date of delivery ends up being way more later than they expected, or their incomes have fallen, or whatever reason they end up canceling their reservation, which is not too costly because, relatively speaking, the deposit size required for making a reservation is relatively small compared to the purchase price, and this is across the board for many of the EV companies. And so this 28,000 reservations doesn't include the up to 100,000 vehicles under the agreement with the government of Saudi Arabia, with deliveries expected to start this year. So this is outside of that agreement with Saudi Arabia, which is also a major investor in Lucid stock. So I will end with these final two comments from the CEO. This I found to be interesting. So we could scale up, but we're making a conscious decision to match production while focusing upon cost-effective build quality. We're focusing on building versions of Air to meet customer interest, conserving reservations into orders. So they're being conservative in terms of ramping up production. They're only making the cars that have customer orders, right? So they're making to order. They're not building cars that don't have customers to match them, and they're just being very conservative in terms of their production and building out these cars, right? This is, I think, prudent because the cost of goods right now is so high, that competition is so fierce for materials, that it would make sense to only build cars that you have customer orders for. So you're not building up inventory that you might later need to discount in order to sell. So this is prudent. I personally like this strategy here from Lucid. So in 2023, they have two strategic priorities. Number one, customer awareness and growth. And number two, a laser focus on cost. Reasonable strategies, right? Lucid is still in its very early growth stage. Not very many cars sold in 2022. And so one of their goals is to really increase that customer awareness, increase the number of visitors to the website, the number of pre-orders and customer orders, and secondly, focus on cost, bringing down the cost of goods sold, and that way they can deliver these customer orders at reasonably good gross profit margins. So reasonable goals. I like where management is headed with this. I like what management is focused on. Really young company, really starting out. One of the newer EV companies, one of the smaller in terms of unit production, and they've got a lot of room for growth, a lot of room for expansion. So it remains to be seen how far they go. All right, so I hope this provided some insight into what's going on with Lucid stock. I hand selected a few videos that are popping up on your screen right now that I think you will enjoy. So please click on one of those and I'll see you over there. Thank you so much for watching.